Every family has secrets. Some just call them loyalty. We often look at the silence in our families and we see it only as a cage. We see the restriction, the hiding, and the flat out dishonesty. And it's easy to be angry at that. But for the generations that came before you, your parents, your grandparents, your great grandparents, that cage wasn't just a prison, it was a bunker. They didn't hide the truth because they loved lies. They hid the truth because in their world, exposure was a death sentence to their reputation, their safety, or their very survival. We spent the last few chapters looking at the cost you paid for their silence, but now we begin looking at the world they lived in. We're moving from what happened to why did it even start? To understand the secret, you must understand the era that birthed it. A lot of our family secrets began in a time where there were no words for the things we talk about freely today. Think Think back 50, 60, 70 years. There was no trauma-informed care. There was no mental health awareness. There were only scandals, shame, and ruin. Back then, if a woman was abused, if a child was born out of wedlock, if someone struggled with addiction or their identity, the world didn't offer them a path to healing. It offered them an exit from society. In that context, silence wasn't a choice. It was a survival strategy. They traded the truth for a seat at the table. They buried the reality so the family could keep its job, its house, and its standing in the community. The keeper role wasn't born out of a desire to be deceptive. It was born out of a desperate need to stay safe in a world that had absolutely no mercy for the broken. The tragedy of all this, and the reason it hurts so much today, is the very thing that saved the family back then is the exact thing that is suffocating the family now. Survival strategies have an expiration date. What worked for your grandparents, for my grandparents in 1950, is toxic for you in 2026. They built a wall to keep the world out, but they didn't realize that they were also trapping the trauma inside with them. When we look back with discernment, we can see that their silence was a form of primitive insurance. They were trying to protect you from the consequences of the truth, not realizing that the silence itself would become the consequence you'd have to carry. We can acknowledge that they were doing the best they could with the tools they had, while also acknowledging that those tools are now broken. Understanding the survival root of the secret doesn't make the secret okay, it just makes it logical. And once a secret is logical, it starts to lose its power to haunt you. We're looking back so we can walk forward with clarity. You are allowed to honor their survival without participating in their silence. You can say, I see why you did what you did, while also saying, but I'm not doing that anymore. Sometimes secrecy wasn't just about reputation, it was about literal physical safety. In our next conversation, we'll talk about when secrecy was necessary and how fear became a family heirloom. Rest your hands in your lap. Do this for me, please. Palms facing up. Open them completely. This is the posture of someone who isn't hiding a thing. You aren't clutching a secret, and you aren't holding a shield. You're just open. Here's your affirmation. Say it aloud if you can, quietly if you must. Let it land somewhere in you. I can understand the past without being a prisoner to it. I recognize that silence was once a shield for those who came before me. I honor their survival, but I claim my right to live in the light. I am safe enough now to tell the truth. That war is over, and I'm putting down the shield. This is Family Secrets. You've been the curator of a museum that was never meant to be open to the public. But today, you're allowed to turn off the lights and walk out the front door. Before we end this, I want you to sit with something. Look back 2 generations. What was unforgivable or scandalous then that is considered a normal part of life now? How does that change the way you view the secret you were told to keep? If the world is different now, maybe the silence doesn't need to be the same. I'll see you in the next conversation.